My name is Sonny Singh. I'm a Brooklyn-based musician and activist, and I'm recording my first solo album called Chardi Kala. I'm a trumpet player, singer, dhol player, songwriter, and for the last 10 years or so, I've been playing in a Brooklyn Bhangra band called Red Barat.
For the last decade, Sonny has brought his energy to audiences around the world. Sonny Singh, welcome to Sama.
Thank you.
What got you into music? What was the thing?
Yeah, when I was a kid, it really did start from the spiritual angle. That was some of my first exposure to music. Some of my first times playing music was in a Sikh devotional context, and it was something that I did because a lot of Sikh kids did it. My parents wanted me to do it, even though there's no musicians in my family. It was this sort of way to connect with our community, connect with our history. And when I became a trumpet player in school band, I think something about that resonance, something about diving into sort of like the tones and melodies that instrument creates, it just became a really important part of my personality, an important part of my expression.
We don't know much about Sikh devotional music. We don't know much about kirtan. Generally, some of us do. Tell me something about this.
In the Sikh community, music is just a kind of crucial way of how we connect to the divine and how we pray. So if you go to any Sikh house of worship, which we call a gurdwara, and there's gurdwaras all over the United States and in pretty much every major city and lots of minor cities and towns too. What you'll see happening, at least during non-pandemic times, is mostly music. You'll see a group of musicians, usually playing the harmonium, which is a pump keyboard instrument, and the tabla, which are hand drums that a lot of people are probably familiar with, and singing these beautiful, what we call shabads, which are sort of, literally it means word, but it's sort of this spiritual poetry, this sacred poetry. The six scriptures, which we call the Guru Granth Sahib, it's like over 1,400 pages of beautiful poetry, written not only by Sikh gurus or Sikh saints, but also by Sufi saints, also by folks who are part of the sort of radical Bhakti tradition. So all these sort of free-thinking philosopher, poet, saints, starting from the 14th century to the 17th century, really talking about how do we get free? How do we connect to the divine? How do we tear down all forms of oppression? And this poetry is deeply inspiring, obviously, not only to the Sikh community, but lots of South Asians and beyond. Mm-hmm. And interestingly, it's not just poetry, but before each shabad or poem, it actually tells you what rag to sing it in. And for those who are not familiar, rag is a classical South Asian musical scale or mode, sort of more specifically for the musicians listening. So it actually, each shabad is intended to sort of like have a particular rag or sort of like mood to it almost. So this poetry is meant to be sung. And so that's what we do.
When you think of like Sikh communities, you think of South Asian communities, you're thinking of like Charlotte is a big city, but you're thinking of other places where there's a larger group. Did you have a large group? Did you have other immigrants around you? I
mean, I think that the question that those kids asked me on the playground is pretty indicative of what the vibe was in Charlotte at the time. I grew up in the 80s. Then there was a pretty small South Asian community in Charlotte and a minuscule Sikh community. And in fact, I can say without exaggeration that growing up in the 80s, my brother and I were the only two Sikh boys in the city of Charlotte who wore turbans. Like we were the only Sikh, turban wearing Sikh boys. There was a couple of other Sikh families in Charlotte. And just like every faith, we have plenty of folks who cut their hair, who don't wear turbans, etc. And my brother and I were the only turban wearing Sikh boys growing up in Charlotte in the 80s. Because my parents pretty much didn't only know every single Sikh family, they knew every single Indian family in Charlotte because the community was that small. So there was a deep feeling of isolation in that sense. It was really, really difficult.
Sonny Singh. That was beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
Tell me what the song's about.
The main line says, "Those beloved people of the omnipresent divine, make this thought stable in your heart. The true guru will take care of all of your affairs." And then another line that I sang, "The people are sovereign, not under the rule of any shahs or emperors."
Mitra Paya
Nu.
Nu. Tell me what that means.
Mitar pyare nu. So this refers to mitar is a word for friend or beloved, and so it's that idea of the divine as one's beloved friend. मित्र प्यारे हाल मुरीदादा के ना मित्र प्यारे हाल मुरीदादा के ना हाल मुरीदादा के ना हाल मुरीदादा के ना.
How does this music reach people like Modi?
I have a lot of thoughts about social change and human change, and don't want to believe that Modi's a lost cause, but I think Trump's and Modi's are probably lost causes, but their supporters aren't necessarily, right? Mm-hmm. Or some of their supporters might not be, and I deeply believe that humans are not born with bigoted ideas, and not born or designed to perpetuate oppression and hatred and greed and inequities. Right? That's not how we're built. I don't think it's human nature, and thus our job is to unlearn. Right? Our job is to open folks up, and there's ways that I can approach it as a community organizer, which I've done at various points in my life. There's ways that I can approach it as a popular educator, which is something I still do a lot of now, and then there's ways that I can approach it as a musician and an artist. And I think what's so special, which you kind of implied about this tool that we have as musicians, but also artists more broadly, is we have the ability to make people feel things, right? We have a way to get in and make people feel things that they might not otherwise feel, right? They might not feel it if I just tell them, right? Or I try to explain, if I try to break down the history for them in a really sharp PowerPoint presentation, or a really compelling speech, or even a really great workshop, which I've been known to facilitate some workshops from time to time about racial justice issues. And, I just think music is a tool that, we don't need a strategy in music work. We might need a strategy in our workshop or in our organizing campaign. In fact, we definitely do. But with music, I try to not go there, right? I try to be true to what my heart is saying, and hope that it connects with people. That's my initial thoughts.
Okay, thank you for sharing. I think this music, your music specifically, it alleviates fear. And I think of Modi, and I think of Trump, and I think of people like that. I think of people who you kind of come to that from a place of fear, and you never lose that fear. And nothing alleviates art nothing alleviates fear like art, and nothing alleviates fear like music. You could fall in love with it as a direct connection, and specifically in this kind of space where with music with intention. Music
is a way to break down fear, and the sort of many ways we can approach this. To me, improvisation is one of those things that long has been a vehicle for liberation, like internally and externally. So it's there's not a ton of improvisation on my record, but it's an important part of my musical expression. So I'm just gonna do a little meditative trumpet improvisation for a moment or two.
Sonny Singh, that was lovely. You got some chops, dude.
Thank you.
Seriously. Quick question, Elizabeth. What age did you move to and live in Phoenix?
I moved to Phoenix at the age of 11, 1991.
Often, you're not singing in English. You're not singing, in the colonizer's language, and you're singing ancient works. This music now, through this channel that we're here, and in general, can have an impact globally. To people that have like no concept of what Sikhism is or anything like that, but it doesn't matter because there's something about it just opens up their hearts.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean that's my hope. I mean that's my dream that people connect to this. Certainly not just in the Sikh community or even South Asians more broadly, but I hope there's something in this that lots of folks can connect to from lots of different backgrounds.
Yeah, I think they will. And so you had the Kickstarter campaign.
I did.
And which we played for. Are you done? Do you need more cash to finish the thing?
I don't need the Kickstarter's over. The funds for the album are pretty much secured. Obviously, it's been a tough year for music. So in terms of being able to make a living as a musician, that's been completely obliterated. But I feel very lucky in many ways. I've been okay.
You have a Bandcamp, yes?
I have a Bandcamp. Yep, Bandcamp, okay. Spotify, iTunes, all those things.
I love them all, but Bandcamp is actually, especially on Bandcamp Fridays, all the proceeds go to the artists. You got some merch?
Not at the merch phase yet, much to the dismay of my manager.
I bet, because I would be sporting a Sonny Singh playing a trumpet t-shirt. So hopefully that will happen soon. And, thanks for doing this. Thanks for sharing your story.
Koi Bole Ram. So this is an anthem of religious unity and pluralism, written by, from the Sikh scriptures as well. And thinking about that message of religious unity and pluralism that's in this one, it is directly confronting the Hindu nationalist agenda of the Modi government. So we'll see a lot of footage from that movement in this video.
Karim 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 Kirpa Tar Rahi